Should I do the intro, Geeker?
Go ahead.
Hello there, wrestling fans! And welcome to the last day of NYWC Week. Welcome to the internationally known Dudes at Ringside podcast. I am their host, Joe Panther Jr. And welcome my co-host, the Happy Heel himself, the Metal Geek.
What's going on, Ringside crew? What's going on, Dudes at Ringside podcast? What's going on? We got a special guest here with us here today. Joe, should I do the honors?
Of course.
This special guest is the heart and soul of the NYWC. Give a warm welcome, Dudes at Ringside welcome to Dickie Rodz.
Hey everybody, how are you guys?
Hey, what's going on, Dickie? Welcome.
What's going on, dude?
Absolutely, man. Not much going on here. Just, we got done with a night of training over here at the training academy and just doing our thing. How you guys doing? What's going on? What's new?
Then now we're internationally known all over the world. Sort of. Gotta get a little further, but it always comes back to we and Geek. We sit in the Deer Park Center and just go back. Tell Geek we got to have an NYWC week, and actually it worked in a funny, mysterious way. We had Stockade as our guest
last week,
and then Jason, the old ring announcer, became the guest on Monday, and then boom, told me about you, and I was just like, let's just call it NYWC week. We're going to honor our favorite promotion living on Long Island. Mm-hmm. Let's do it.
Well, hey man, I'm pretty excited that you guys were fans of NYWC back in the day. I know that we've spoken before about it in like little small, details that, you were back in the shows. I believe 2007, I think was one of the years we were talking about, and 2006. Mm-hmm. And back in those times, NYWC was actually very, very popular and probably the hottest thing on the Northeast for a good portion of time. And I'm not just saying that because, I'm NYWC, but, at that point you had guys that had made it to the bigger stages and, WWE or what have you. And excuse me. And, they were unknowns, and you guys were coming to Deer Park Community Center and seeing these guys before they became stars, and you recognized their talent and much like we did, in the back. And it's like, we had a lot of fun back then. It was very, very different. The world is different now, obviously. So we were able to get away with a lot of different things back then. And the internet wasn't as hot as it is now. And it was much easier to keep a secret. And plus too, at that, independent wrestling wasn't blasted all over dirt sheets at that point where, on the internet like it is now, where you could ruin a surprise where somebody's just been released from the WWE and maybe we got their hands on them or whatever. So, being able to talk to you guys, off the show and some of the posters you had sent from the past too. I mean, instantaneous memories from all those times. I mean, you're talking about, Matt Cardona, Zack Ryder, and Brian Myers, Kurt Hawkins before they were stars. Trent when he was Plasma at the time. Mike Mondo before he got to the Spirit Squad. I mean, I don't know if you guys were around for 2003, but he was, he left in 2000. You want to talk about the fastest guy to come out of
wrong picture, Geek.
Wrong picture.
That's our last one of our old guests.
Yeah.
You're showing old guests? What? You're covering me? You stop me from talking to showing old guests?
I got this picture from an NYWC picture that I took with Zack Ryder and Kurt Hawkins.
Okay.
And they were heels at that moment, and I'm like, can I please take a picture with you? They're like, okay, fine.
They were so likable.
And also, me and Mikey Whipwreck.
Oh, wow. Mikey Whipwreck. There you go.
Good old Mikey.
I was actually trying to get the old posters, see if I could cue those up, but, I don't think I had them on there. So, on the computer.
Listen, we know what it's like. I mean, I would love to show the people, things like that from back in the day. But, hey, man, we'll be able to describe it through words and stuff, and excitement, I would assume. Because, I mean, just it's like, the lineage of the company. There would be other companies not around right now if it wasn't for NYWC and the start here. And, NYWC in a lot of ways was a breaking off point for stuff that's here today in the Northeast area. Without NYWC, a lot of things wouldn't exist or be there. It's kind of like, you had, some of the owners and some of the guys that used to wrestle on the Northeast before even I had joined wrestling in 2000. They even say there's a connection from the past within like the late 90s, I'd say, even back to ECW that connects right to NYWC. And it's when you think about it, it's really amazing. And that, there is a story to tell there. And I think in the near future, or hopefully the near future, the NYWC company will be able to tell that story in future projects, because again, we were talking off camera, the NYWC has, it finds a way. And I think a lot of the times this company runs in silent. A lot of the stuff isn't put out there where fans of the company, workers from around the world or the country, whatever you want to say, see this stuff. But this company is growing. It's still growing, even in the times of COVID and, the pandemic and everything, shutting everything down. It's found a way to grow even through the hardest times. And one of the biggest growths that we've experienced is production, where now we can take our brand and really bring it into social media and try to get to the forefront of independent wrestling, where everything is seen more, and that was something we couldn't get that exposure when I was new in my first 5 to 10 years of being in wrestling. Everything, the way technology has advanced, it's very easy to get yourself out there earlier on. I didn't have that opportunity to do that. So when, we had to evolve with the times, and we finally were able to find a way to evolve with the times. And it took a pandemic to do it, to be honest with you. In my opinion, it took a pandemic to really make us go, okay, well, what's our next move? And, Shane turned around and said, well, we're going to put out a show. We're going to go in the building. It'll be a closed set environment. And it was a challenge for the workers. And I think every one of the wrestlers rose up to that challenge, where they've never experienced it before. And even me, I had never experienced going out in front of nothing except an empty, to use a lack of a better term, an empty arena, an empty sportatorium, and wrestle and have and they talked about it on dirt sheets and, write-ups, AEW is wrestling without fans, WWE is wrestling without fans. It's very hard. And it's true. When you're sitting there and you're wrestling, it's like shooting a movie, because now you have these you have a hard cam in front of you, you have the floater cam, and you don't have people. So you can't feed as a performer. You want to feed off those people. We just didn't have that. So, I think the guys that were here, the NYWC originals, the guys that started here, they broke into the business here. It was a new experience, and I think they all did very, very well. And I think also at the same time, the production team did very, very well to put everything together. And again, I'm sitting here with this background that I could be sitting in my house, I could be sitting in a basement, I can be in my car, I could be anywhere with you guys right now. So I took the opportunity to talk to the second in charge of production, say, hey, man, I got to do this podcast. Now, I call everybody man, by the way, but this person's a woman. But, I said, hey, again, hey, man, I have an idea. I'm doing this podcast, and I don't normally do. First of all, I believe, but here's a tidbit. I hate video. I hate seeing me on video. It's so hard to even think about that because, I've wrestled for so long that I can't watch myself. So to come up with this concept, hey, let's use what we have in front of us that we've been doing through this whole pandemic and blast this out. And I think it looks great. And I think it's showing that, hey, even though NYWC is a small territorial promotion, we're based out of Long Island. We could be bigger. And we're going, and I truly believe with the guys that we have, we can be bigger and we will be bigger. And I think the first step is having this great production team.
Mm-hmm. That's the one thing I've been telling Geek, was another person that mentioned that there could be another show, an outdoor show maybe. And I was just telling Geek, I dropped off his facade in the background like this for him, and I said to him, dude, when that comes back, we have to buy a ticket. We have to be there. We're like, we're doing this podcast now. We're getting our names out there. People know us. People are wanting to meet us. It sounds kind of mean to say this. I'm going to say this right now, mic drop. I think right now we're more popular than the NYW street team was.
NYW street team. Oh my God. It's so funny. Even something like that brings you back to a point where just think about what you're saying. We needed a street team back in those days where there is no street teams anymore because the problem with the quote unquote street team is that you can't put anything up anymore legally. And now everything is done through the internet. So it's like, that's one thing that I wish I could get through to guys that are breaking in and guys that are I would say within their first 5 years of wrestling, I'm paying my dues. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. Listen, paying your dues is different in every generation of wrestling. And this right now, right here, is getting myself out there and getting exposure. Back then, it was getting a stupid-ass flyer, on a telephone pole at a busy intersection, and you had to put a bunch of them, so it was, it caught the eye of everything. But at the same time, you had to get it into storefronts and everything else like that. And it's like times have changed so much. It's changed so drastically that I wish they could understand how much work was put into that. The fact that you even just said street team.
Yeah.
My mind, I totally forgot about it.
They were that's not horrible. They were so catty. It was a girl and a bunch of Lance Geek. Remember, I remember Geek. We'd walk over them. Hey guys, can we hang out with them? They're like, how many shows have you been to? You can hang out with us. And I'm like, now if they would came up to us, oh, can we hang out with you? No, because I hang out with you because I want to be still around because
they're probably watching this podcast right now.
Good. Now, than you. Ha ha. Remember me? Remember this guy?
Do I look familiar?
Movie.
And so you're taking off your hat and you have no hair. I want to take off my hood. I'm losing my hair. Too much time.
I hate doing that. But yeah, me and Geek have so many memories of NYWC. Like I met meeting Mikey Whipwreck for the first time with my dragon shirt on. I told this to Damian Dragon. I had a dragon shirt on, and he loved his dragon shirts. Mm-hmm. I was there. I was like, my friend's like, what are you gonna do? I'm like, I'm gonna give him the shirt. So I was like, Mikey, I want to trade you a shirt for an NYWC shirt. And I'm such a dedicated fan. I only won enough money to get my ticket. So I brought the shirt. I'm going to trade Mikey Whipwreck a shirt. I'll maybe let me trade. So I was like, Mikey, like my shirt? And he goes like, oh, yeah, oh, nice. Oh. And he walked around me and he was like, oh, the dragon's on the back. Oh, man, that's real. And the fire's coming out of the oh.
Was that supposed to be, I just need to interrupt. Was that supposed to be Mikey Whipwreck?
Yeah. Yes. Anyway, I would, but I can't. I'm like, what? Why? And he goes, you don't have a shirt on. We can't let you in the rec center with a shirt on. Oh. And I was like,
I wonder if Mikey Whipwreck remembers some dude trying to get into the Deer Park Community Center without a shirt on.
I would have walked in and just said, give me the shirt. I'll go in the bathroom and change. But it was a Janko dragon shirt with the dragon wrapped around the whole body of the shirt. He liked it.
Yeah, I was about to say, he had to have liked that shirt. He wore them all the time.
He was just like, oh. He was like, that was like my fun first meeting because I had the DVD and I got him to sign it, and I was just like, oh my god, meeting the man that was in ECW with the Fireball guy. I used to always think the Fireball guy, man.
Yeah. I told him earlier about the fireball. Did Mikey throw a fireball at one of the Psycho Surfers? Because I remember him throwing a fireball at one of them.
It's very possible that he did. Nothing's coming to my head right now because when I think of fireballs, I think of Mikey throwing one in my face at the Sportatorium, which is where I'm at now. I mean, back in the Deer Park Community Center, the only time I remember seeing a fireball was a promo they had cut in one of the Deer Park Community Center offices. They had done a fireball spot. I think Crusher and Mikey were involved in that. And Mikey was supposedly in a shower, and they opened a shower curtain looking for him, and there he is. He popped the fireball out. But I honestly, it's so hard to remember details about everything that's happened so long ago. But yeah, no, I don't remember at Deer Park Community Center, but I do remember when we got here, we had more leeway because it was our own building, so we could do whatever the hell we wanted to do. But if he did, I'd like to find out. I'll probably ask about that after I'm done here and see if he actually did. I just don't remember.
Because I remember something like that. Like it was one of the Psycho Circus matches. I remember it was towards the end.
Well, if you remember, then I'm sure it happened.
Yeah.
I mean, I probably wasn't in that Psycho Circus match. That's probably why it's escaping my brain. But I mean, we had some crazy shit happen in Psycho Circus. I mean, there was. Do you guys remember Mike Spinelli?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so Mike Spinelli. I believe this happened 2 years in a row, but Mike Spinelli got busted open during 2 Psycho Circuses, and probably one of the most hardcore memories I could remember. So he gets busted open. I think I was in the circus, so I just don't remember that part. But I remember him getting cut open, and it was so bad because he got cut open over a vein in his head. So they sliced the vein. So I can't remember. I believe it was Mikey. He kind of just threw his thumb on top of Mike's head to stop the bleeding. And Mike turned and he's like, "Did it stop?" And he kind of pulls the thumb away, and this line of blood keeps coming out of his head. He literally had to leave. Now, maybe you guys remember it now, but he had to leave the circus. He went in the back, and they wrapped his head up. So he came out with this white bandage around his head and goes out to wrestle. It just wasn't holding. So they finished the circus, and by the time he got to the back, he was getting stitched up in the back.
I think I do remember something like I do kind of remember that story. It was long ago, but I remember something that.
I mean, let's. So the Psycho Circus 2007, while we're on the circus, that was. I remember I'd got in there, and I decided to dress in, dress slacks and a white button-down dress shirt, and I probably was the definitive anti-Psycho Circus person, because I was a wrestler. I didn't do hardcore. So I did a complete Psycho Circus by avoiding all the bullshit inside the Psycho Circus, and I ended up winning the thing. And it was just I just remember I let everybody else do the work. The story of it was I let everybody else do the work, and I just nailed Mike Spinelli with an elbow off the second rope with barbed wire, and I won the thing. So it's kind of like I give so many people so many credit over the years doing the Psycho Circus, because it is a rough match. Not saying that I later on that I did Psycho Circuses and I did the same thing. For sure I did. And I did get more heavily involved, but at that time back in 2007, because, again, you had sent me flyers and stuff, and I was just I started to remember things. And because unfortunately a lot of that footage is just kind of lost. I remember our videotape some of that stuff, and I don't have it, but I'm trying to remember it off of the top of my head. And I just remember, I started to think about the evolution of the Dickie character because of the Psycho Circus. So the Psycho Circus is a game changer. And I don't think I'd ever take it away from anybody of anything they've ever done in there. I mean, the ones that started even come later were just as brutal as the ones you guys remember back in Deer Park Community Center. So,
Is the Deer Park Center still there, or did they knock it down? Because I haven't been on Long Island since.
I think it's still there because I passed by.
I don't go there. Like I go on and off. I come back to drop off stuff for Lance, and then I'll go home, and then I miss it. I miss being on I miss everything about Long Island. I miss everything about Long Island.
Where do you live now that you miss Long Island?
I live in Pennsylvania.
You moved.
Oh, that's right. You know John Redbeard, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was telling me before. He's like, "Oh, you're gonna be on the podcast tonight." I know, Joe Pat. I was like, "Damn, all right." So let's name drop on the podcast.
Yeah, he I left him a sticker, the Dudes at Ringside sticker, in the beer store in Milford, Pennsylvania, and you're gonna think this is funny. ECW name drop. Jason Knight picked up his sticker and was like, "How do I get in touch with Joe?" And they got the number. And I gave my number, and I'm sitting waiting for Lance to get waiting for Geeky to back to his apartment. And I get a phone call. I'm like, who's this number? It's 6.
Yeah, Craig says it's still there. So I told you it was still there.
Oh, yeah. No, Deer Park Community Center. No, absolutely. Deer Park Community Center is still there. What happened with Deer Park Community Center, so NYWC, we moved out of there. We had, because that was our home. We had So when NYWC started way back in 2000, we started. I actually started training out of a karate dojo in Hicksville. So So NYWC was a brainchild of 3 people. Okay. And what happened was it was like a Kickstarter company. Okay. And they found a karate dojo to kind of rent out the space when the dojo master, whatever they called him, I don't know. But whenever he wasn't using it, they rented out the space to the 3 guys that had started the company. So I started learning how to wrestle on karate mat. There was no ring. We had nothing. We had punching bags. We had a half a body dummy type of thing. And we trained out of that for 3 months. So I had joined NYWC started September of 2000. I joined up. I was officially I'm the first student, as they say, that joined the training academy. And then 1 week went by and somebody else came in, and then another week by somebody else came in. It was just, like I said, it was like a kickstart, and they were doing everything by a street team. They were street teaming themselves and trying to find guys who want to be wrestlers. So the first 3 months, by the end of that year, I mean, we had a full class. I think we had a full class, about 15, 20 guys, and we were just stuck in this small dojo. So what happened was we needed our own building. The only thing they could find at the time was another place in Hicksville. It was an old school garage. So it had 3 bay doors. It had no running water, no heat, no bathroom. So we took it anyway. The owners at the time, they're like, well, we need a place. We took it. We cleaned it out ourselves. And we stayed there for a few years. And then we ended up moving out of there because we needed to get out. I mean, we had to run to Taco Bell. It was like down a shopping strip, just to use bathroom.
I think that Taco Bell's still there, by the way.
Oh, yeah. No. I believe they actually built its own standing one, and they changed the original one to a 7-Eleven.
Yeah.
But in that, that 7-Eleven, which was the Taco Bell, so interesting, the memories in there were priceless. Is where we took trays out of there and, busted each other over the head because we were stupid. And we figured, hey, it would look good in the ring when it came time to do matches. I remember Trent being like 15, 16 years old, getting picked up by his mom. So just so you guys, yes. So the funny part about that whole thing is that what you're seeing on AEW, when she came in with the caravan and he came out of it, that was legitimate. That's exactly how that kid started when he was 15, 16 years old. He would get dropped off and picked up in mom's caravan. So it was so funny, like for anybody from back in that day that realized that's legitimate. That's how that kid started his career. And look at him now. I mean, he's a former WWE guy. He's been all over the place, and now he's on TV weekly with AEW. So it's like, it's those things that just make it worth the while to keep going with the newer guys. But anyway, we went to this garage, we stayed there, and then that's when we ended up in the community center because we started working with Greg Stengel. Greg Stengel would come down to this garage that was in between 2 shopping strips in Hicksville, Delco Plaza, which I'm sure you guys probably seen or remember. But, Greg would bring down this guy, Joey DeBari. He's got CP, and he was like NYWC mega fan. And he would even come down to training sessions, because even though he's confined to a wheelchair, he still had very good movement. And what he would do is we welcomed him in with open arms. It's just a testament to, the reach as a performer where you impact people's lives, So he would come down to training classes so many times. So he would actually start. So when he would go during the day to whatever it was, I can't remember. It wasn't a job at the time because he was too young. He did have a job, but there was like a day thing that he would stay at. I don't even know what you'd call it, but he would come down to NYWC, and instead of doing, he would do his exercises during the day, but he would come down to NYWC when we trained, and he would do exercises there because he knew that he couldn't train to be a wrestler, but he wanted to be. So the only way that we saw fit to fulfill his dream was to let him do whatever he could. And this guy was able to get out of a wheelchair and use a walker, and he would exercise, and he would do the best he can walking. And to this day, you can still find him in the sportatorium watching shows. And, I don't care. Anybody say what they want about him, but him being confined to a wheelchair and still wanting to do something like this and just pushing himself to do it was a lot more than a lot of other guys that were coming into the training center that would quit so quick because, God forbid, they had to do calisthenics. God forbid, they threw up during cardio. It was almost like they were embarrassed and come back, and this guy just kept coming back. So just the memories in that building alone, just this garage for our company and the history that came out of this garage is just unreal. And, of course, we had our good times and we had our bad times there. And, I met some of the best people that I'll ever meet my entire life through wrestling. And it's because of the 4 letters. And it just keeps growing. And, they don't have to be wrestlers. And Joey is a perfect example. And one of his best friends who they fight like a married couple, his name is Chris. He has CP as well. He doesn't have as much movement. His speech is a little harder to interpret. But again, these guys, they were more involved with probably more than 50% of the guys that come through the doors even today. And again, it's such a different world. I don't even want to get into that, but it's just like there was a lot more fun. There was a lot more good times. There were a lot more, like I said in my promo, there's good times, there's bad times for our show. There's good times, there's bad times, and there's times I shouldn't talk about, but I will, because it's just life. And it's just, the evolution of what we've done here is incredible, So just to keep people around for so long, and there's other fans that still frequent NYWC shows. So it's pretty cool that we got to keep people for, 20 years or so.
Yep. Yep.
Oh, by the way, you guys haven't noticed I rant a lot. So if you
that's
cut me down, cut me down.
Trust me, we like the stories, to be honest with me and Joe. We love the stories.
That's the first thing I'm going to do, Dickie. I'm going to get an extra $20 to buy myself an NYWC shirt, or I got my Dudes at Ringside hat my cousin made for me from her company. But
that's nice. All right.
I like hats.
You got to brand yourself. I brand myself too. I had this shirt made. It's actually a test run. The shirt I'm wearing now. I need to come up with a logo. I had worked on my overnight job. I worked with somebody who was an artist who she was actually a supervisor. I'm 40 years old. She was 22 and she was my superior. But she was an artist. She became a tattoo artist. Now she came up with a great design for me, and I just decided to put on a shirt and just play around with ideas. So when do we get Dudes at Ringside podcast hats here? That's my question.
We're working on it. It's a work in progress right now.
So. I want to get the able hats that I could actually sell, but this one cost me $25 right here. To make myself.
You know what? The shirt I'm wearing cost over $30 because the shirt was $30. Yeah. And then the vinyl and everything to make it. So yeah, I totally feel your pain, dude. Totally.
As Lance is our child now. This podcast, everything's now costing us real money.
It's money.
No longer just a joke.
The microphone, everything from the microphones, to the computers, to the ring light.
My birthday present.
The lights that go back there. So there you go.
Hey, man, you got to do what you got to do until you can make it more professional. And, because, hey, put money into it. You make more money out of it. Just keep doing what you're doing. Personally, for me, the younger guys, I'll talk about it now. I'll send you guys some messages. I think there's some guys here in New York that totally could use the experience on your podcast. And do have some good things to share with you guys, even about this company and their own careers, because, I work with them weekly. Unfortunately, right now I'm rehabbing a rotator cuff surgery. So I haven't worked my regular job since December 2nd. I had to have surgery on December 28th. I had a full rotator cuff tear plus a tendon tear. I took a tendon off the bone. So I've had all this time, while instead of just sitting at home and trying to just keep going to PT and I literally, I had people take me over to the sportatorium, and then when I could drive again, I did it myself. And I took this time where it was downtime, other than getting fat. I took the time to get down here to the training center and try to spend some time with the guys. And, whether I'm passing, and again, I'm not sitting here, I will never take credit for him, but I just like to pass the knowledge I have to them. And at the same time, these guys give me another perspective of what wrestling's like today and how much it's just grown and it's in a different area. So, I didn't want to waste my time. So I've spent the last 6 months, about twice a week, 3, 4 times a week sometimes, being down here and just trying to get something accomplished. So just never waste time. There's never wasted time, including your podcast. There's never wasted time. I mean, every day you guys were putting out on social media, you have another guest coming, a month or 2 from now. And that's, that's pretty impressive that you guys
We're booked till November, actually.
That's pretty big that, you're booked that far,
I live with my parents and they kind of got mad at me. Like yeah. My dad follows me, and it was like he would be next morning.
I think we're getting to the point where we're squeezing people on the podcast because we had to add a third day because it's like, can I come on your podcast? And we're like, we don't have any dates available. And I'm like, all right. And they're like, okay.
Let's open up Thursdays because first Thursday ever, Dickie, was a young wrestler from the United Kingdom. Her name is Kiara.
Okay.
She's a gem. Oh, she's a gem. She's a sweetheart. You would love her. She's trained by Lance Storm.
Okay.
So she's a scrapper. She's tall. I think she's about I forget how tall she is, but she's a gem. I even name drop NYWC. I'm like, if you ever come to the States, you have to go to NYWC. It is a launching spot. Oh, really? No problem. Wow. Maybe I should go there if I go to New York, and you guys should come along. And I'm like, we'll be your cheering crew. Don't worry. But she also is a heel. She can be face or heel. And the stuff she said, even Geek was like, she's like, I could be a face, or I could be a, let's just say a C heel. What they call it. Yeah.
Yeah. We're going with this. Yeah.
Clunt.
I have to search her out just to hear her real voice because I want to see if your impression is uncanny.
Joe's deal is he likes to mimic voices. That's what he does. He does. And I'm like, Joe, man, calm down with the voices, man. He's like, you're gonna get us in trouble, man.
He was doing her federation in England is called CPW, and they were actually Geek was watching them on YouTube. So he was sitting there watching them, and they were like, I guess they saw dudes at ringside. Like Geek said, "Oh hi," and they were like, "Hey, dudes at ringside." Dude, I'm not gonna do the impression because I don't want to get myself in trouble for making fun of them. You can imagine the accent.
Spit out my drink if you do another impression, bro.
Yes. It was just like, oh my God. He sent me the clip and I kept doing the impression of the voice the whole time. And he was like, Joe, stop. We're going to get in trouble. but yeah, we have a lot of people coming. We have Liberty Pro Wrestling from Alabama coming on our podcast later in October. Like NYWC. As I said this to Lance, when you send us the promo, the preview one,
right?
You send me the real promo. I said, Lance, did you ever think the day that we would have Dickie Rodz from the NYWC, where we grew up going to sitting in the front row cheering and booing for these guys? They're saying our names now.
Well, now you got a bumper to use for your program because I gave you one that has nothing to do with this.
This show, yeah, today's show. Yeah, exactly.
For sure. You got one you could use all the time as a commercial if you need a commercial break at some point.
Yeah.
I like Damian Dragons. His promo. It's before we started asking the wrestlers to actually make us promos. So we would have in the middle of the show, hey Damian, can you make a promo? Okay. What do you want me to do? And Damian's been off script. Mm-hmm. He went off script. He was just like, almost like he was like, do you want to see a magic trick? It was like something like that. He went cuckoo Damian Dragon. I was like, with Foxy's.
It's funny. Damian Dragon is, man, I haven't spoken to him in years, probably a good decade now. But, Damian Dragon, he wasn't, the first time I met him wasn't at NYWC. I think it was at JCW. It was Jersey Championship Wrestling down Jersey. He was one of the first guys that, I was working. I can't even remember how long I worked for Jersey Championship Wrestling for, but I remember working with him. And it was just, he was one of those guys at that time, he made me better in a lot of aspects too. So if you talk to Damon at any point, you could let him know he definitely did his part to make me better.
He's actually coming on the show on July 2nd.
Oh, good, good.
So
Part
he's coming
two.
back.
So we're
Part
gonna let
two.
him feel like you tell all his stories. It's gonna be fun.
I'm sure he's got a lot of stories he ain't gonna tell either. I just
he trust me, he's like you know how I did my Mikey impression? His Mikey impression is even funnier than mine is. He does like like that. I was like, oh god, I gotta do that one. I gotta do my impressions.
I don't know. I was watching some of your Foxy episode. So, I wanted to get a feel of the podcast, what you guys were about. So I turned up Foxy's, and so Foxy, what's your favorite food? Cheese. And I'm just, cheese. Okay. All right. I know what to expect now. Just what my favorite food is. I'm not answering that. But
yeah.
Okay. But anyway, so what got you, when did you guys actually start your podcast? What got you guys into podcast?
We started actually 2 months ago, but we've known each other such a long time way before that. We did college radio, so but
yes. Okay. I played all the heavy metal and the Tools and the Metallicas, and then toward the countdown was over, we would go into like the Raws and SmackDowns in the John Cena, Batista, Rey Mysterio era, and we would break down the Raws and SmackDowns, and then it would end the show. So yeah,
it's weird. It's just you guys remind me of when I was in the 90s. I was I was about 18 or 19 years old, and I listened to a wrestling radio show on AM station, and it had this guy Brian Vitko, and I think his co-host was Johnny Bowles, and I ended up working. Brian Vitko actually came to NYWC in the very beginning too, so we ended up working together very, very early on in my career, and we we hit it off. So I just remember through his education on the radio and how to talk and everything else, he was actually helping me out with promos at the time. So he's back. He came back recently, to help us out behind the scenes too with the Heart and Soul Cup tournament that's on YouTube right now. If anybody wants to go check that out, but
it's
good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah, no, we had a blast. Let's if you want to talk about the Heart and Soul Cup, we talk about the Heart and Soul Cup now. So anyway, yeah, Brian Vitko was very instrumental. I, in my opinion, way back in the day, as far as bringing what we wanted at that time to life. But we were so small; it was an upstart deal at the time. We were still in the garage. But I remember, he was one of those guys that, I'd walk in. I was usually the first one to walk into training, and there he was all the time working on something in the building. And he actually made a makeshift commentator's table, and he ended up putting together. And he had this NYWC sign. The NYWC sign was so cheesy; it was just so bad. It was this red and yellow, like plastic bullshit, and it was like this stupid marker. But again, it was just like back then. It was just so much passion going into what we were doing. Where we were built and survived on guys like that. And just about, I would say about 98, 99% of the roster was so instrumental in putting the company together. So when we got him back, it was funny because I was talking to Shane, who is owner and promoter and booker of the company. We were talking when the pandemic hit. He had came up with the idea of how we were going to keep NYWC going. We had come up with, he had come up with the way that we were going to work training, because we were still going to follow guidelines. So God forbid, the wrong guy comes to the building to check it out and see what's going on. And number two, a lot of the guys that run the company were deeply affected by COVID. So he came up with this huge idea to keep it alive, and it worked. And then he was going to start these, like I said, we grew during the pandemic with production. So he came up with the idea of, well, we're going to do these tapings, and we're going to, originally it was going to be a day taping, and then the footage goes over to production, and then they would take care of it. And, obviously do all the editing jobs they had to do, add in all the graphics and everything else. And I remember I was talking to Shane, and we both, I had brought up Vitko's name, and he was like, oh, already on it, already a step ahead of you, so Brian had came back. And it was one of those things that, it was kind of like I'm working with these guys from the past that helped build it originally. And so there was a lot of, it's so, it's kind of bullshit to say, but there was a lot of heart put into the project of the Heart and Soul Cup. And unfortunately, we lost Crusher Dugan. He had died suddenly, and it was like 2 weeks shy of his 50th birthday in 2020. Did he die?
Oh, wow.
Oh, he died in 2020. It was, just before the Psycho Circus that year. And I do remember nobody could, it was the first time that somebody died that was very close to the company that nobody could get it together during the 10 bell salute that, wrestling does for, people that, have passed away. And Crusher, if anybody, just about as much as Mikey, was a very big influence on training here. And, of course, I'm not bashing Mikey at all. Mikey was probably the greatest influence on anybody that ever came through the doors. But Crusher had so much to offer, and there was so much that we learned from him. And you never stopped learning with him. So, from the minute you walked in the door, you were who you were, to the minute you walked out the door. You had to get in your car to leave, okay? So it was like very strict, and there were plenty of times, Mikey, you're talking about at the community center with the shirt, and, you're going back and forth. There were times when I was the champion and we were at the Deer Park Community Center in front of, fans. I got yelled at by Mikey because I was making mistakes. And, of course I was young and stupid, but, I made huge mistakes and I was dragged to the back, and I was basically told, what the fuck you doing? But in any case, Crusher was in that role too. And Crusher for me, back when, NYWC said, hey, we're going to give you the title, and you're going to go, you're going to go run with this, and you and Crusher, make something of it. This was particularly my third reign as the champion. And Crusher was like, don't worry, I'm going to be ringside. He had been with me a little bit before I had won the title, but, it was on the job training. So he was always, at ringside, and people are, of course, people, it's all, it's all bullshit. It's all, and wrestling's not. A lot of wrestling's not. I don't, I'll take it to task with anybody. It's not all what you think. And this guy was literally coaching me from outside the ring, in the ring, and he made me a better worker for it, not just a wrestler, but a worker, and to understand why I was doing what I was doing. So anyway, don't worry, we're going to get to the point. I'm not going off.
No, good.
Crusher would do, he would end up doing that for other guys later on down the road. And when he died, and we all got in this ring, and we're all trying to hold it together, I remember feeling like, we had, you guys remember Mega?
Yes. Our buddy in the comments was like, he had a shirt and that said "fat is good," and his teacher yelled at him. He's like, "Why are you wearing that shirt?" So he wanted to let you know that. Well,
that's funny. That's a memory, but and Mega, it's funny that would be something somebody wrote. Mega is still one of the nicest guys in the entire world.
I messaged him, he didn't get back to me.
Maybe I'll reach out to him for you, see what's going on with him. He's a pretty busy dude. I mean, he's got a lot going on. He's in Florida now, But Mega, as far as when you look at the history of New York wrestling, Mega is right there at the forefront. He started at HWA with Mikey over there, and he's been around a few years before me, and I had some good matches with him. We had wrestled a handful of times, and it was always very easy because Mega was just easy to work with. But Mega, if he wanted to, he could kill you. I mean, there's just without question. If he wanted to give you a really good shot, he can give you a shot, and he can knock you out, no problem. But nothing ever came to that like that with Mega. But think of this guy who's 6 foot, 4 or 5, 200 some odd pounds, and it's like he broke down in the middle of that ring, and he couldn't talk anymore. And it really resonated with me, with how many people try to grab a mic and say something nice about Crusher. And it made me realize how many people he had impacted in his time here. So when we did the Heart and Soul Cup, now we're going to circle back to Heart and Soul. We did this Heart and Soul Cup. Excuse me. I don't want to say too much about behind the scenes, but I understand what the concept was, and it really was for it. Like it really kind of immortalized Crusher. It was about him in a lot of ways. And after some conversations with Shane, I understood it more. And also what the cup is supposed to symbolize when you win this thing. And I believe this is going to be a yearly tournament at some point. Hopefully we're going to start it again. We'll start up again next year. I don't think we're going to be able to run one this year because of everything coming back too late, but I'm not too sure. I'm not up there and calling the shots, but it eventually will make a turnaround, and it will be for Crusher. So it'll be the Heart and Soul Cup. It'll be the Heart and Soul tournament for the Crusher Cup. And really what that means to me is basically what the cup represents that you're winning is that you put everything into what we do. There was never an excuse not to be at training. There was never an excuse not to be at a show. There was never an excuse not to do something that you were asked to do. You're a team player, and also too that people recognize all the efforts that you put in, not only to yourself but the company. And in my opinion, it would take a lot for somebody to be an example of that. And I didn't understand at the time, when I won it, I was like, wow, I just don't really deserve to be held up on this pedestal. And it took a lot of convincing after I won this thing as to why I'm on that pedestal for this particular part of the company. I'm not saying it outshines the champion. I'm not saying it outshines the secondary, the fusion title or anything like that. It's in a class of its own, just like, any heavyweight title company, secondary fusion title, intercontinental US title, whatever the case may be. It just means something else. And sometimes I think, there's more to what we do in this particular wrestling. There's more to just being the heavyweight champion. And I think it should be a motivating thing to the guys that, train and want to be better at what we do. It gives them something else to shoot for. And there's a lot of meaning behind it. There's a lot of meaning behind it. And the Heart and Soul, and I was even impressed with the name Heart and Soul. I really like it. I really dig it. I can really get into it. And I think that other people, when we come back to live shows, you will get emotionally invested into whoever is the Heart and Soul champion, whoever is that person. And you don't need to wrestle for the titles at that point. You don't need to be the heavyweight champion at that point, because what you're trying to do is you're trying to convey, hey man, this is my passion. I bleed for this, and I know it sounds cliche. I bleed for this, and this is what I've always wanted to do, and I'm doing it, and I'm being recognized for it. But it takes a lot of work to be recognized in that category. And again, I'm not trying to devalue being a heavyweight champion anywhere or just being a champion anywhere. What I'm trying to say is that I think this concept that was created is something very different. You're not the king of the ring. You're not the king of New York. You're not the king, I think it totally supersedes all that. I think that the cup can be very valuable if we treat it right, if we use it right, and if the guys are absolutely at that level. And, I've never claimed at any point in my career that I am the best person, the best wrestler that's ever walked into a ring. And, in fact, a lot of the times I was hated, and when you go back to when I was the NYWC champion, I was hated for the right reasons. And then at some point, wrestling started to evolve into different areas, and I refused to give up that part. So I kind of got hated for not, stepping up at that time. So, I go from being champion in 2007 to never receiving a title shot, maybe once in the last 14 years. So, again, it kind of, when you think about it, I actually had a comeback story going on with NYWC. Obviously there's a good times and bad times in anything we do in life, whether it's wrestling or another sport or another business. You have good times and you have bad times. And there were times where the company and I didn't agree, and I had to walk away for a few months or whatever the case may be, and I come back, recharge my batteries. There were times that I was very wrong. There were times that I felt that I was very right. And till this day, I feel that I was very right. But I had this large gap of time. I left in I believe it was 2014. I was teaming with Nikki Adams. We were the NYWC Tag Team Champions. It was the first intergender team of the company, I believe. But we were definitely the first intergender tag team champions. And that was a pretty good notch in her belt at the time. I mean, good luck, whatever she's doing right now. I really don't know. But at that time, there was so much equity put into this tag team. But unfortunately, because there was some personal reasons, we left. So I took almost a 5-year sabbatical from NYWC, and I ended up coming back in late 2018, and here's a completely different locker room, a completely different roster. And I tell you something, I'm very impressed with every wrestler that's in this locker room. The guys that started here, the guys that train here, the guys that have come in, that hey, they're looking for work to come in, they're part of the team. It was a completely different world, and I really thought that at that time, NYWC, and for years after I left the company, I was bashing. I'm not going to lie to you. I sat here, anybody brought up NYWC, my response was fuck them. I don't want to even talk about it. And, I was very, for lack of a term, I was very bitter. I was very bitter that there was a huge relationship that I had with the owners of the company and a lot of the guys that were here. And again, that's the best part about wrestling that you guys don't get to see, out in these shows, that a lot of friendships were made and a lot of relationships were made. And it took a lot for me to say, it's time to walk away. And I walked away. And, of course, hey, I'm just another nut on the gear. And, you take, this nut's, the threads are no good. And we're going to throw another nut on, and the company goes on. So, and I honestly, and honest to God, I could tell you, I never kept up with the company. I didn't really look into what was going on. I didn't care. And, Dickie, what do you think of this person, that person? I don't give a shit about them. I think they're all scumbags, and I was at a really bad point. And, to this day, I think I learned a valuable lesson by walking away when I felt I was right. And I really feel that I was proven to be right. So when I came back, now I have this whole locker room full of great, great talent. And, I would be remiss if I didn't bring them up, but, you got a great tag team in the Cortez brothers. You have a great hand, technical wrestler, just all around worker with Mike Mistretta. And his gimmick, nobody's better than Mike Mistretta. He pisses people off. And yet, honestly, if I had to, in my humble opinion, I really think there is nobody better at that point. And that's a great character. It reminds me of when I was the superstar back in 2006, 2007. Here I am, I'm claiming, but the difference was here I am claiming I'm the best and I'm the superstar of the company. And yet, honestly, there were a lot better wrestlers on that card than me. But the problem was not the problem, but the thing was I made it work because I didn't have to out wrestle anybody. I didn't have to do anything. I just had to go out there and piss people off. And then I took their belts. I pissed them off even more, and again, I don't, anything I've ever done wrestling, it's not just me. I've always had, I've had a supporting cast, for my particular characters, I've had a supporting cast, and I wouldn't have ever been to do without them. So going back to Mike Mistretta, I see a lot of the superstar character that I had done for, 2 or 3 years, and he's taken it to a different level. So I really enjoy watching his work because the character kind of resembles what I was trying to do, but I was able to do it in a different way because the world was different. I was able to get away with a lot more bullshit that I was saying, and a lot more things were kind of overlooked. Now, I can't do that stuff anymore. So I watch him and honestly, I go, man, I can't imagine doing the superstar game without doing all the stuff I did. And I watch him and I go, okay, well, he's got his finger on the pulse. So, you come to NYWC when you guys make it back, which I know you guys want to come to the show.
Definitely.
Yeah. I'll tell you right now, the first name that I would tell you to watch out for is Mike Mistretta. Another, other guys that will stick out. Like I said, the Cortez brothers, those guys are legitimate brothers and they have great chemistry in the ring. And they're going to get you to believe what they're doing. We have Man Bun Jesus, who is an unbelievable character.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that on the Instagram page. I was like, what in the world?
Let me tell you something. I guarantee you put Man Bun Jesus on your podcast, you will be laughing so hard you'll be pissing yourself for however long you're running that podcast. He is an absolute like gem of a character inside and outside the ring, you know, and it's like he's such an extension of himself. You know, I won't get into it. You know, he doesn't do anything at all to enhance his character. But you know, he's great, you know, and he gets it. You know, he honestly, as far as character work, you know, and really sinking into something. He would be another one that when he comes out, from the minute he walks out the corner curtain to the minute he walks back, you're gonna get your money's worth. You're gonna be absolutely entertained. You know, J Rad is another guy who, again, when I got back, all I saw was character, and you know, he did this just funny, unbelievable stuff. Again, entertainment value at its best. I've had the opportunity to work with him while I've been recovering from the rotator cuff surgery, and I saw another side of this guy. This guy knows how to work. He knows how to wrestle. And there's times I just turn around. I says, dude, you got to work. What the hell are you doing? You know, and again, I don't need to work. You know, I don't need to wrestle. I'm over. You know, and that's not exactly his words. I'm just trying to translate the way I would take it. He's right. He's got a character. I mean, the only thing that I would do is clean up some gear. I would get some better gear, but he's unbelievable. Again, entertainment value. Why am I going to come back to watch NYWC again? Because I was entertained as fuck watching, you know, J Rad, and he kind of reminds me of Andy Kaufman. Because here's a guy, you know, he'll walk right in his building. Hey, you're wrestling Izzy McKenna tonight. Hey, you're wrestling Mother Edless. Hey, you're wrestling. And he's just like, yeah, no problem. And he goes out there and he does this deal that's just unbelievable. And it's just, again, excuse me, you're not going to leave without going, okay, that, you know, I want to come back and I want to see what he's going to do again next time, you know. And, you know, I mean, the list goes on and on. We have young guy. When I got back to NYWC, they teamed me up with this guy, Sal. You know, they're like, hey, you know, give him that on-the-job training thing. And I sat there, I'm just like, shit, me? You sure you want me to, you know? And again, here's a kid who was just a plain-looking dude, came out, kind of he you know, had all the tools. And again, it's like, you know, maybe not as memorable as a J-Rad or a Man Bun, but you definitely would go, oh man, this guy's good work. You know, he knows how to wrestle, you know, and he definitely entertained the shit out of you with a lot of stuff he's doing. He went and visited Dr. Tom down in, I don't even know what the hell Dr. Tom's schools at Tennessee.
Was it OVW?
No, that was a long time ago, but I believe it was like Tennessee or something. Dr. Tom's school down there, he went down there for a few months for, you know, whatever. I guess they're like coaching classes or whatever the case may be. You know, you could train with Dr. Tom, learn the inside of the business where, you know, the old school way. He came back. This guy's a completely different person. Now, this dude's ready to rock and roll. We don't have live shows yet, which will be coming back very, very soon. And I'll tell you right now, he's another guy that I'd be watching out for, you know. So there's just, it's a completely different roster. It's a completely different feel. It's almost a completely different show other than the 4 letters that hang on the wall. But I really think that, like the characters of the past that you guys remember that we've spoke about off air, you're not going to leave NYWC without going, well, goddamn, you know, this is some good shit, you know, and I got to come back because, again, you might feel the same way I do, where you could relive those times that we did back in the Dearborn Community Center with a different, in a different building, a different environment, different people, different views on you know, wrestling and the world and how they're going to interact. And to be honest with you, it's just a good feeling to watch these guys. You know, they keep growing every time that I'm down there and you know, training with them. And, you know, I just can't say enough good things about it. So, you know, I think you guys will be pleasantly surprised that even though you're not going to see, you know, Damian Dragon is retired, you know, Foxy Fox is retired, you know, guys like Josh Daniels, Quiet Storm. Josh Daniels has gone from wrestling. Quiet Storm's in Japan. You know, wow. Mike retired. There's so many, you know, like Spider's Yarn. He ended up leaving. He retired. Still makes gear though. One size fits Spider, always late, but he makes the gear. But you know, there's so many guys from back in the day that aren't there anymore. But and it sounds bad to say, you won't miss them because there's just an entirely different crop of people, and they're all so good at what they do. And and it's always a learning experience every time you get in the ring anyway. And I wouldn't, I would put money on it that for sure you would see some of these guys on TV in the future. Absolutely, for sure.
Well, you forgot to Ken Scampy.
Ken Scampy.
Scampy.
Oh, yeah. I say this with nothing but love.
We want fish sticks. We want fish sticks. Come on.
He used to come out the fishing net and catch people. Scampy, I liked Scampy outside the ring when we would go and have a drink, But when training came, so again, things probably I shouldn't say, but I don't really give a damn. It's like, how did I get through training? I brought a coffee for Mikey Whipwreck. Yes, Mikey. No, Mikey. Yes, Mikey. That was Scampy. But yeah, man, Scampy. Yeah, I had some great times with him at the bar after shows. Dan Barry was another guy that I'm sure you remember.
Yeah.
Dan Barry was just on AEW this week.
Yeah, I just saw that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's so funny because Dan. I think Dan and I've known Dan since he started. He started
him too.
Months. Yeah, he started months after me.
He said, "Oh, I'm doing my own thing," and I'm like, no problem.
You know what? It just comes down to, a lot of guys, you may not have anything to really kind of talk about. Dan has a real good job right now that's outside of wrestling. He still does comedy. He still wrestles the occasional match. I've spoken to him every now and then over the last 2 years. And, I think that Dan found a good balance that, when we start in wrestling, when we start out as wrestlers, we need wrestling. Wrestling's a dream. Wrestling's a passion. And it's about the only thing you can think of all day and all night. Okay. So when you start, it's a completely different world than when, let's say, you're around 20 years or you're around 15 years. Your life changes. You get older. There's other things that, get in the way. If you haven't gotten that big break, sometimes it's just like, what, fuck it. I can't do this anymore. There's other guys that can balance the two, which are real life and wrestling. And it's like, and then, again, of course, you got to worry about your health and how you're feeling, how your body feels, how you are mentally. If you're not in a good place mentally, if you're not in a good place physically, yeah, you might need to walk away. Dan Barry is a perfect example of being able to balance it out, knowing his worth, working the places that he knew he could work that were worth it. The payday was good. The exposure was good. He's so funny. And he's so good at his gimmick. He's so good at everything he's ever done. And I think he would be very shocked if he was watching this and heard me say all this about him. There was so much good with Dan Barry. And way back in the beginning when he had started, it was hard for somebody like me to see it because I was so concentrated on telling a story and the art form of wrestling and learning that, where he could do all the flips I couldn't. He could do all the moves I couldn't. He was just overall, he was more versatile for what he could do. So, I mean, looking at him today, it's like, he's got the perfect balance, dude. And again, he was another guy. He's a guy that I would love to see back with NYWC at some point when we start running again. And I think that as soon as I'm healed up and I'm back to good physical shape, I'd love to work with him again.
Team Tremendous. Bring Team Tremendous back. Come on.
Well, I mean, I know Scampy got married a while ago, and I think he might have some kids and stuff. I don't know if we could get Team Tremendous.
But Tara it's Tara, right? Tara was his manager?
Tara Charisma was his manager, yeah. Tara.
What happened to her? I messaged her on Instagram, and she didn't message me back either. I don't know if that was her connected to her Facebook. And I was like,
Tara, I mean, as far as wrestling, Tara disappeared a long time ago. I think it came to the point where Tara had enough. Like we talked about, you get to that point where it's just, I've had enough. I'm not going to go anywhere other than where I'm at. I've had enough. I got to go. I mean, I could be very wrong, but I remember Tara walking away was just very quiet. It was just kind of like, okay, one day Tara's here, one day Tara's not. And I don't know what the reasons are for it. I haven't spoken to her in probably a decade. Again, she was such a sweetheart. I mean, I had no problem. A very select few, about a handful of guys that I can actually sit here and if you wanted me to talk shit about them, because, to me, Either I had a bad experience with them, or I feel that they're just a cancer to what we do or what we try to do, or whatever the case may be. But again, that's conjecture. It's my opinion. But, and like I said, it's very, very few. But Tara was a sweetheart. You asked her to do something. She did. I remember one time in the Elks Lodge, I believe it was for ICW way, way back when. I can't remember the exact date. I remember Mikey Whipwreck and Shane were teaming up. And I think they were wrestling. I think Tara was on the other end of the ring, and she was with Raven. I can't remember. Sorry, it's not my story to tell, but I do remember that the spot was Mikey went under her skirt and then came back up and misted somebody in the face. I believe it was her. So, like, we could do fun things like that back then. And she was always a good sport. She always was up for anything. And, again, I don't know what exactly happened with her, but I'm just assuming that she just wanted to start another life.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I actually have a picture. It's in my picture book. I'll have to take a picture and send it to you later. It's me in between her and Foxy. And I never got a chance. I got Foxy. Foxy signed the picture for me in a silver pen. And I never got a chance to get the picture, but I always forgot to bring the picture back to get her to sign it on the other side in gold.
That's an interesting picture. I wouldn't mind being in that picture back in the day. Foxy Tara sandwich. I've been fine with that.
I was like, and who knows, me and Foxy were like wrestling besties. Like, she would see me at the show as a heel, and she would sit and talk to me in the. And she would sometimes have to tell me,
Go away.
No, I'm sorry, sweetheart. Go. I'm a heel. Stop it.
Go away. Just say I was mean to you. Just tell them I was mean to you.
That was back, that was a lot of people. There's one thing that I don't like about wrestlers today, workers, is that when you go on social media and you outright expose everything you've just done, I can't stand it, and everybody has the excuse of, well, the business has been exposed. But it's like a movie. It's this, that, and everything, and I don't buy that bullshit. Because it just triggered me into that, because it's kind of like, back then that was you broke the wall down when you did that. You broke that fourth wall down when you were the fan, and you're not supposed to be. Again, that was something that. There were a couple of times, I was guilty of it. I got in trouble, and it was, it's cold fishing. You kind of fishing out people, and that way you're over, and then you go in the back like, well, the people are taking to me as they want to see me, and the promoter turn around and be like, well, that's because your stupid ass was out there, acknowledging them and talking to them, and again, like I even hate even talking about that much, because. Me personally, when I was trained, and I know there's a lot of other older people, maybe even some people now, I can't find the younger generation that kind of believes me, except for the guys that I work with NYWC. I don't like that. I don't like the exposing of what I do, because what's the point of me going to training 2-3 times a week, sacrificing everything I've sacrificed in my life to do what I do, and then I'm going to show you guys, hey guys, by the way, this is bullshit. What I just presented to you as Dickie Rodz, and I went in there and I had the battle of my life. By the way, it's bullshit. I'm gonna go on social media right now. I'm gonna go on the Dudes at Ringside podcast. I'm gonna say, hey man, remember that really big match I had in the Sportatorium, 2 months ago? By the way, it is bullshit. He's at my house right now. He knows my mom. He knows my kid. Whatever the case may be, I don't like it. And again, it's a very unpopular opinion what I'm saying, because a lot of people don't agree with me anymore. But there are some that do, and it's like, a lot of old timers. Like I'm again, I hate name dropping. I'm a good friend to Ted DiBiase. I know the $1 Million Man very well.
Oh, wow.
I was down at his house down in Mississippi, and it's like, I've also met I've had the opportunity to work with a lot of older guys that I had watched growing up, guys like Jimmy Hart, Greg Valentine, Marty Jannetty. Excuse me. I've worked with Bruce Beefcake. I've worked with, the list goes on and on. There's just no point in sitting here dropping names. It's just to get myself over. But the point of it all is that instead of taking it and using it as a tool, I use it as a learning tool. I didn't need to go around and talk about how, hey, I was with this guy, I was with that guy. I just always kept it private. I didn't need to go on social media. And, even now when I see these guys in town, I don't need to go on social media and post pictures with them. What I need to do is be educated as to what I've set out to do 20 years ago. And then I want to take that information and I want to pass it on to these guys that are, some of them may be struggling and some of them just don't know. But, you guys answer honestly. This is this very impartial here, but you go to a show, you go to a Psycho Circus, you watch two guys beat the shit. I'm using the Psycho Circus only because it's the biggest match in the company's history. It always draws a huge number. Guys put a lot on the line to do it, whatever the case may be. But you're watching a guy beat the shit out of another guy for whatever reason that's been presented to you, and someone turns around and just says, "Hey, by the way, fuck it, I'm going to go out to dinner with him." It kind of ruins it for you. You're spending your hard-earned money to come see me wrestle. Mm-hmm. Why am I going out of my way to throw it back at you and say, by the way, and then proceed to just expose everything I've done? It was such a big no-no. And again, I got on this rant about, all this because of, Foxy with you in the crowd. It was such a big no. I mean, you could probably even talk to Damian Dragon about it when he's on your show.
Yeah.
Those little things that would have derailed anything momentum you had. As far as when I say derail momentum with the company you're working for. Why do I want to pay you to come in and work for me when all you're going to do is pretty much tell everybody that it's bullshit? And so, even you could listen to this interview right now and then we could, we'll part ways and you go watch wrestling, you forget about everything I'm saying, and you can still get lost in the wrestling. Me personally, I don't watch what's on TV today, and it's not because I'm going to sit here and destroy the product. I don't watch wrestling today, one, because I work overnights and it's very hard for me to do it. I'd have to catch it on demand. I have a lot of other things to get to, including my own life, my own career. So it's very hard to keep up with the current product, but I do as best I can through social media, through clips that, AEW puts up or whatever. But, it's like, it's just a sensitive subject to really, try to kind of press on, for me at least. I just don't like the whole, I had a great match with you tonight. Thanks for it. I'll see you soon. It just doesn't work for me. I mean, again, you guys are not going to go. If I was to cut a promo right now, and then you saw the guy that I'm wrestling cut a promo, and I'm telling you, hey guys, by the way, NYWC is back in July. I'm going to go wrestle this guy in July. But if I'm on social media and I'm posting pictures with that guy's kid or out to dinner or, hey, great training session today and shit like that, I personally I don't believe in that stuff. And, I want to keep anything I can alive, especially because, it started with, the WWE kind of pulling back the curtain saying, hey, by the way, here's some of the tricks, to today where the curtain doesn't exist anymore. The curtain's been burnt down.
No, kayfabe is not alive, but you're trying to keep it alive.
At least for the time that you take the money that you've made on your weekly jobs and you're coming to see me and you want to be entertained. It's like, you talk about fireballs. You were talking about fireballs earlier today. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm in this heated rivalry with somebody. Excuse me. They throw a fireball in my face. You're watching it live. Holy shit. You can't fake that, which you can't because I've taken fireballs before. So you really can't fake a fireball. Would you want me to go on social media and start talking about how, hey, by the way, I'm in the back, I'm fine. And the person I was wrestling Mikey threw out. Oh, by the way, Mikey says, we're all good and we're giving a thumbs up together. It's just, I just don't feel that you're getting your money's worth at that point. I just don't feel that that's right for wrestling.
Not at all.
No.
Yeah, no. So, I mean, that actually reminded me when Mikey, you want to throw out some crazy shit. So taking a fireball in your face, there's a way to do it. And there is a reason why I'm getting to somebody off camera right now. I'm going to point to them. There's a reason why I'm getting into this. And it's because it's bullshit. So Mikey threw a fireball on my face. Gosh, I wish I could remember the year. I was feuding with Francis Kipling Stevens. And again, Kip was very easy to work with. I loved wrestling Kip. And Kip and I, we didn't see eye to eye for a while at some point during our time, and he had this. Gosh, I don't remember the girl's name, but there was a Violet. There it is. Thank you. Good job. There was Violet, and he was like she was on the on-screen girlfriend and everything else like that. And they were these two nerds, and the whole progression of the storyline was that they were in love, and it was just kind of so funny and dopey at some points. Where
I think I remember there was a nerd stable that was in NYWC.
Yeah, there was another one, Willie Wise, but I can't remember his name at the time. And then there was another girl. Her name was Jamie, but I don't remember what we called her on screen. There was a nerd group, but it was
for a while. That's when the internet came out. They had the website, and I kept looking at the website. I kept seeing these guy with suspenders in his picture. She was like,
"Yep, that was Kip." So
disappeared.
So they played. They put together. It was honestly, it was amazing stuff. It was a good little solid story to tell. And again, they prepared. He's preparing for a match. He goes to a discovery zone, and he's trying to go through all these little kid things, and they're playing the Rocky music over it and shit like that. And everything worked. So here I come, the antagonist, and there was I take this bitch and I power bomb it through a fucking table, and hey, what are you doing to my girl? That's the person I love. So really the end game was a love connection, and we had these series of matches that were, it was so easy. It was so easy to draw the people into what we were doing, and we told a fantastic story. But again, I'm gonna throw a little parsley on this here. Well, the parsley is the shit that don't matter. Let's throw a little spice on here. There can always be a time where we know, oh yeah, no, it's bullshit. There's shit that happens in a ring, and it's unplanned, and it could be real, and it could be, real heat in there and stuff like that. But in this case, we were really going at each other, and we had to have this. I think it ended up the rubber match, and the culmination of everything was this big hardcore match, and we wrestled all over the sportatory. So anyway, I try to set up a ladder to throw Kip off the ladder, and Mikey runs out and throws fireball in my face. So I do know that you don't just want to take a fireball to the face where your face is completely dry and your hair is in front of your face. Oh. Because it will singe the hair right off of you. Okay.
God.
The trick to a fireball is there's no trick. Okay. There's no trick to this. It's not like I could put on flame retardant bullshit and be protected by the flame. You got to take a fireball to the face. Guess what, kid? You got to go take a fireball to the face. Okay. There is one little detail. It's called water. Okay. So I was told, throw some water on yourself, make sure you're wet and that, you don't singe all this bullshit. Because I had the beard at the time too. Well, matches get out of hand, and we were kicking the shit out of each other. I mean, like, it was probably one of the hardest matches I had, and I had wrestled guys 10 times bigger than him, and we were just having this knockout, drag out, hardcore match all over the building. And I remember going up the ladder, and there's Mikey, and here comes this flame, and like I would say it was seconds before the flame. I was like, oh shit, I don't have water on me. Boom. I take this humongous fireball and just fall on everybody off the ladder, and then Kip jumps off the top of we have a storage closet in the sportatory. I mean, he just jumped off the storage closet, put me through table 1, 2, 3. So it's just like, yeah. So fireballs, just so I know, I think I've seen this reoccurring fireball thing in a lot of your podcasts. Fireballs, you kind of want to have water on you so it doesn't singe off all the hair on your face. And this one side of my beard, it was more likely my right side because that's what I'm remembering. The whole beard was singed right off. So it's like, shit happens. This is what I signed up for. It was all good. We had a great match, and it kind of like we got the job done at the end of the day. But it was a lesson learned. I ended up having matches with Alex Reynolds, before we had shut down with the pandemic, and it was like, again, I got revisited with the fireball because Alex Reynolds was doing the fireball gimmick, and I took 2 of them to the face. But his deal wasn't like this big, humongous fireball flame. His was just kind of like bullets. They would shoot like these bullet flames out. So those were interesting, and that led into a bigger feud with him that never came to fruition because we just couldn't get it done. We had shut down. But, again, sometimes things don't go according to plan. But it actually kind of reminds me of the Psycho Circus we did here. It's probably the last Psycho Circus I ever did. I don't remember the year. It was snowing outside. We had a snowstorm, and Mikey decides to enter the circus. I believe I was already in there at that point, and pull out a garbage can full of snow. So instead of throwing a garbage can full of weapons in the ring, next thing you know, here comes all this snow. And I was like, what the fuck? Okay, no, we'll just keep going, like no problem. All right, just keep going. And now, so snow melts. Now the ring's wet. There's a bunch of puddles all over the place. So I remember he set up and kind of just left it there. There was a table between the apron and the guardrails. And it was just nobody had gone through it. And I had him on the apron, and I go to run at him, and I take this stupid ass slip. Like I just kind of right across to him, and next thing you know, I got flipped over the top, and I just couldn't control it. And seconds later, I went right through a table, and it was probably the worst table shot I ever took because that table exploded. And I nailed my tailbone right on the cement. That was the last time it was ever done. So, like it's, shit happens, but what are you going to do? But why would I wouldn't want to go on the internet and kind of expose it either. Yeah. Tell everybody, hey, by the way, I really got hurt, but it's okay. Because, I planned it out. It is what it is. It's just things like that. I that's not my deal.
Yeah, the thing about with the me and Voxy, that was about the time like there was no MySpace yet.
No. Well, MySpace was around 2006, but I think MySpace wasn't used in that way ever during MySpace's like big time round. And then even Facebook was in the infancy stages at the time, and you had the stupid button gimmick where you could find buttons on Facebook and put them on a cork board on your Facebook page. It wasn't used in the ways that it is today.
Facebook, you had to belong to a school to actually to get on it. So
I did not belong to a school, so I couldn't get on until it went into like free-based social media bullshit. But I know I just it wasn't. We were so in tune to never speak of what we did. I mean, there were times I had wrestling matches in the first 10 years that I was around. Excuse me, my family didn't know what the hell was going on. When if I had to go back and I had to talk to my family about something that happened, I didn't tell them what was. They weren't on the in. The only people that were on the in were the people behind the curtain. And I went out there and I sold it to coworkers. I sold wrestling to coworkers and friends, family, and everything else. And it was just, it was just so easy to do because again, there wasn't that reach, and it was just that's what made for a better show. I couldn't get to you guys at any point and expose anything because, there wasn't a Dickie Rodz Facebook. There wasn't like the popular thing to do was have a Twitter, a Twitch, a website, a freaking Facebook page, whatever the case, an Instagram page. You weren't seeing anything. And if we were to use those tools in the correct way today, we'd probably make wrestling the way it was back in the day where you can actually have a surprise. Because you're not even getting surprised on television anymore. Mm-hmm. They can't hold a surprise. So,
I think the biggest surprise was probably seeing Great Moon in Madison Square Garden, which I would never forget that one. That was I don't think anybody knew about that surprise really, and anybody expected that. It's
amazing they kept it a secret.
Mm-hmm. Number 30 in the Battle Royal. So
for me, my biggest surprise at an NYWC show ever was when Tommy Dreamer came out for one. I forgot what match it was in.
That was Psycho Circus. It was against Madison Square Garden.
And the man, he had his theme song, and I marked out so hard.
Tommy's theme song, Man in a Box.
Yes, it came on, and I marked up so hard. I jumped up. Oh my God,
I think the biggest surprise for me for NYWC show was when Mick Foley showed up.
I agree.
Mick Foley.
That was at the Deer Park Community Center, though, right?
No, that was Patch Hog. I think it was Patch Hog.
We had he did a lot of appearances for us, and he was really kind about them. We had a show in Deer Park at I think it was Deer Park Middle School. We had sold, I believe, and again, I'm not shooting a fake number. We had about 800 tickets sold. Wow. And I remember, I don't even remember what I did on that show, but what I remember the most about it was we were all by the curtain, and Foley was an absolute surprise. So we didn't sell the show. God, I don't remember who was on the show that we sold, that everybody was coming to see, because I know we did have, at that point, we were bringing a lot of names. But nobody knew about Mick Foley. Mick was doing it as a favor to Mikey. They had known each other from ECW. Mick's one of the, he's one of the nicest guys you meet. So all of a sudden we realized there were people leaving. And we had this just big surprise at the end of the show, because the shows, they ran long. Sometimes when you had so many matches to get to and whatever the case may be, the show would run long. So we saw Mikey for the end of the main event, and it was just going to be this big, big surprise. And at that time, it was when, you really didn't see Foley. And I remember Greg Stengel, who had got us hooked up with the Deer Park schools, because I believe he had worked for them at some point, and he was also running the community center. So he was helping us out at the community center. He was actually going out and telling people, go back in, don't worry, it's not the end of the show, and blah, blah, blah. And when Foley went through that curtain, oh, holy shit. I mean, his music hitting, that I never heard a place erupt like that in my entire life, where it was just so loud. You couldn't hear yourself. And it was because Mikey came through the curtain to get somebody. He comes back out. There's Mick Foley. That play, they never died. The crowd never died. It was just absolutely on top for the rest of the show.
That was the biggest surprise, I think, at an NYWC show right there.
Oh, for sure. I mean, we did. We also were at the community center. We were running other buildings too at one point when the Dudley Boys were released from the WWE. And I remember I was teaming with Mason Rage, and they sat us down in the office and said, "Listen, we're bringing in the Dudleys, so we want you guys to wrestle them." And I look over at Mason. I'm like, oh shit, that was one of the toughest teams in wrestling, And I'm just like, all right, let's, I'll do it. I mean, there was a big part of me that was really excited. But at the same time, there's a big part of me that was like, oh shit, So we went, and that was the day, that day we were at the show prior, we were at Community Center. And they were going to let the cat out of the bag that Team 3D was coming the next month. So we had to set everything up, and it was in a gift box. And we Mason and I are in the ring. We pull out a gift box, and we open the shirt. And you open the box. There's this handmade shirt. I think Spider made it actually, and it said Team 3D. And we're like, what? We're kind of just looking at each other. What the fuck? And then, as you know, the Dudley Boys music hit. And we ran. I mean, we literally. And it was so funny because Mason was the tough guy of the team, but we just totally darted out of the ring and jumped the barrier. So now we're standing with the fans, and next thing Mikey came out and he's like, haha, fool ya, they're not here, and then we're like, oh, what the fuck? And he's like, oh, but next month you're gonna have to, wrestle the Dudley Boys. And I was like, oh shit. So the stage was set. We end up advertising the Dudleys, and it was one of another big draw for the company. We had their first appearance. Jesus. We had their first appearance. There we go again. Hey, if you're still there, by the way, Dickie can't speak English. It was their first appearance out of, there we go. It was their first appearance out of, excuse me, the WWE. After they had left, they had not worked an independent company, and they were coming into us, and the draw was huge. And I remember it very, very vividly. My family was there. The girl that I was dating at the time, my girlfriend, her family was there. I had neighbors there, co-workers. So there was a good portion, because these people were like, holy shit, you're going to wrestle? Yeah, I'm going to wrestle the Dudleys. Hey, come on down, because I'm going to beat them. That is what we did. I'm not going to lose. I'm going to beat these assholes. Mm-hmm. And of course, it was like, yeah, I don't think so. So again, we sold the shit out of it, packed house. And it ended up being me and Mason and Crusher against the Dudleys and Trent Beretta. And it was like anything that could go wrong for me went wrong, and from the minute that I walked through the curtain to the minute that I got back through the curtain, that was a fucking nightmare. Okay. And it was like one of those experiences that it blew my mind to the point of what the fuck just happened, to the point of, being in the back and everything was brother. Oh, okay. No problem. We get out there and it was just a completely different, situation. And I just remember hearing, Bubba just, he was an asshole. He was an asshole to me. It was just like, what the fuck you doing? Kick it up, blah, blah, blah. He's just trying to direct me. And it wasn't anything that was kind of mapped out. And I just remember, at the next point, he's like, what's wrong with you, kid? Wake up. And he throws me in the corner. He throws me in the corner and just kind of tips my head up and chops the shit out of me. And I think it was like the first time at that point where I just sat there and went, I don't know why the fuck I'm in a wrestling ring, because I was just tossed around like paper. It was a perfect example of, hey man, if somebody wants to hurt you, they can. If somebody wants to legitimately pretty much kill you, they can. So we go through this whole match, and Trent gives Crusher some kind of 450 or whatever the hell he was doing at the time, and they win the match, and Crusher's rolling out, and we get set to continue to do what we were supposed to do at that time, and Crusher's blue, and he's barely breathing. And Mason and I were like, what's wrong? You all right? You all right? And he's barely getting out his words. So we're just kind of there because we had like a real situation going on. And Mason looks over at me in a real situation of, shit, this guy's hurt. He looks over at me and goes, Dickie, we got to get in the ring. And I just kind of look at him and go, are you fucking kidding me? Breathe right now. I don't want to just leave him here. And he's like, dude, what about the spot? I'm just like, before I can even get an audible answer out of my mouth, next thing I know, I just felt this big smack on the back of my head. And it's Bubba, and he's just like, what the fuck you doing? Can you get the fuck in the ring? He just kind of tosses me in the ring. And I would probably went from white to absolute Casper white of like, oh fuck, like I fucked up because, what was supposed to be happening was not happening. And it was the 3D spot, So I throw in the ring, and next thing you know, before I can, and like everything feels like it's like an eternity. But when you're wrestling, everything is like within seconds. And next thing you know, I'm in, Devon's hands, and he's just kind of giving me the worst fucking body slam he could ever give me. Because, at this point, I'm as green as goose shit in their eyes, and they don't give a shit. He's just like, you're going through the table, and just kind of pops me down. I'm like, I don't think this is, I'm sitting there thinking to myself, this would be a good time to tell me I've never gone through a table. So I'm just like, I'm literally about to shit myself as I'm just going, okay, I don't know what the fuck's going on. One, I'm not too ashamed of it. I was scared out of my fucking mind. Two, I'm about to go through a table. I'm like, all right, well, I don't know how the fuck I'm doing. And here's, Devon set me up to the top with Bubba, and he just, Bubba didn't even do the sit down he did with Mae Young on TV. He just fucking tossed me right off the. So all I seen was this flip of life, and next thing I looked down, and it was funny enough, ironically, there's my girlfriend's family. And they just saw a look on my face, and they said, I went through a table. Like,
oh, shit.
I was just like, fuck.
Oh, my God.
So, yeah, man. I mean, we had some great times, I look back on it. It was kind of a rough night, and I just look back on it. It was a learning experience again. And it was just like one of those things where it's like, okay, well, expect the unexpected and don't fuck up, but anyway, what else you guys got for me?
Do you still talk to Mason?
No, actually, Mason. So Mason, in the height of what probably could have, to this day, been one of the biggest feuds in our company, because we had built this thing up so good. We split up. We did the whole turn. I hit him on the head with the chair.
I remember that. So
I legitimately, I busted him open legitimately with the fucking lip of the chair. And it wasn't, it wasn't intentional, but anyway, but that skyrocketed, launched one of the biggest feuds we had up to that point. And, you know, he ended up, you know, contacting OVW, and he ended up leaving and going to OVW. So it was, yeah, you know, and again, there was nothing wrong with that. At that time, OVW was so new. So OVW, I think, started in like 2003. So, you know, just a backstory to the importance of it was, you know, that was the development story of the WWE, and that's how Mondo got his start. So Mondo, he wrestled for a year with us, trained with a year, got on shows really fast. Next thing you know, he wanted that higher learning. He had, you know, foregone the whole football and college deal, and he's like, I'm going to OVW. Went to OVW, paid his way, and within a year, I think he was signed to a contract. So you got to understand, from 2003 to 2006, when there was Mason, at the end of 2006, we broke up in October. Mason wanted to, you know, spread his wings and get that higher education. He wanted the contract. You know, he was a school teacher. He was a good school teacher. He was well paid. He had a good future. And here's this guy who on the weekends is putting tights on. He was a fucking giant. He was 240 pounds of muscle. And he gave up a life of being set to, hey, I want to take this chance. And I respect him for that. He ended up leaving, went to OVW. By the time our feud had ended, which was really fucking good. I mean, I ended up wrestling Jerry Lynn in that November for the title. I ended up losing. Jerry was so, like, Jerry Lynn is one of the nicest guys in the world, and he's like one of those guys that will pull you aside and teach you everything you need to be taught to make you a better worker, because he wanted to legitimately see everybody better that he worked with and knew and that he liked. So we ended up going back to it went back to the creative table. I ended up winning the title that December to set it up for Mason, because it was such a great story. You know, I was this little piece of shit that thought he was bigger than what he was, because I had Mason doing my dirty work, and I decided, hey, fuck you. I'm gonna turn on you and I'm gonna be a star. But I was still a chicken shit. And that's where the superstar came from. So we were in the midst of something very, very big, and he ended up hightailing it over to Louisville. And he paid his own way. He wanted that contract really bad. I give him a lot of credit for doing what he thought he had to do. We ended up going to Psycho Circus that January. It was decided, hey, you're gonna get Dickie's getting the fuck out of Dodge with that belt. And I remember they one of the eliminations was you had to get put through a table at that time. So Mason put me through a table. I fucking rolled off that table. I put Mike Spinelli on that table. I'm sorry, he put Mike Spinelli through the table. I rolled Mike Spinelli off. I laid on the table, and I was eliminated. I got myself out of there, and I kept the belt. So, there was only one way to win the belt. Elimination occurred through the table, but you couldn't win the title. Mm-hmm. So I went into a Psycho Circus with my tights on, with the belt around my waist, and I walked out the same way. Mm-hmm. So we had built this thing so big that I remember it was the first time that I had ever looked. So that February, the next month, we got February, where Mason was going, this is his big match. We get in there, and I'd never seen the Deer Park Community Center so filled. We had the back door. It was at an aftermath show. So, the back doors that were, that led to the outside, the back, they were open, and we had people, at those doors, because it just worked.
I remember almost like that place was so packed. I remember I'm like, oh crap, the fire department's going to come and they're going to shut the show down, because that's how packed that place got.
There were plenty of times we got lucky. I mean, sometimes when you do the right, like NYWC, there's one thing I can say is we always did the right thing. Mm-hmm. And, of course, we wanted to make money, as much money as we could at the time. We didn't want to turn away people. I personally, I would think that, the people that were outside the door didn't even pay. I think they were just watching at that point. But we abide by the rules as best we could with the commission. We had a good rapport with them. So really, like you said, we were about the fire department. Unless somebody called them because they were uncomfortable, that wasn't going to happen. So here we are, and it was at that point in time, for the Mason Dickie match. I think that was a turning point for us, because we had gotten into the Deer Park Community Center in 2003. I can't say we had sellouts back then. We didn't. We get a good amount of people, for sure, but business picked up when Mikey joined, when he came on board in 2003, the same show that Mike Mondo had left, everything changed. Shane came on board, Mikey came on board, and everything just took a big 180, and it just changed the company forever, and it changed it for the good. So here we are. We went through 2005. I think 2004 was very low. 2005, everything picked up because Mikey had full control. He knew what he was doing. He still knows what he's doing. He made people better than what they were. He was able to do the smoke and mirrors where certain people lacked. He made the rest of it come out, and that's what helped me. So where I lacked, and I'm not ashamed to say it, I had serious lackings in a lot of areas where he made everything that I was good at come through, and that's how I was able to be the top guy and be the champion and be believable. So we got to this point where I'm on a second title reign, and it was to really get Mason over. We get to the community center, and the place is sold out. They're waiting for this match. I can almost remember it like it was yesterday, how much people were just waiting because Mason was just this big monster. Mason had thrown guys into, the audio equipment. I mean, he like build guys in audio equipment, like beat the shit out of people. And that was not even a character, because there was a time where I needed to completely turn around what I was doing, and Mason was there to back me up. So they said, Dickie, you need to go out there and be who you are. You need to be that heel. You need to be that bad guy. You really need to believe your bullshit. And I did when I had a guy that was 240 fucking pounds behind me that had every muscle and every, strength in the book to do it. So, it was reality. Everything that we did with Mason was reality. I was this little piece of shit that didn't get in the ring until he beat the shit out of the guy, and I could take control because that's where I excelled. Mm-hmm. And we get to this match, and we turned into a wrestling match, and it shit the bed. Mm. It just didn't do exactly what we wanted it to do, because he went to OVW, and OVW turned our monster into a technical wrestler. So at the end of the day, it was, it was okay. It was the farm church.
Mm. So, what was the first moment in your wrestling career that you went to the curtain and you knew, I made it?
Well, making it is a lot of definitions to making it, and again, everybody thinks making it is going to WWE, going to AEW, getting on a plane at 8 a.m. and having to fly to Jacksonville. But that's, what, hey man, this is an inside joke. That's what friends do. So, but anyway, making it,
I mean, like a spot. I mean, I don't mean like making it like WWE, making it like in one of your spots you did in NYWC. Like, what was the first, like? It's hard to explain. Like,
no, I think I understand. I mean, like where I felt that I was a top guy, or
that. That's what I meant.
That, it's honestly, when you go back to very early on, between 2000 and 2003, there was no such thing because we were so small. We were student shows. We didn't really, become anything until, like I said, Mikey had joined the fold and Shane joined John Curse as an owner. And they the three of them really turned everything around and gave us something to feel like we've made it, so to speak, like you're asking. So it honestly, there were so many years that I was there already where I couldn't have that I made it moment. You know what I mean? So it's like, if I really had to put a finger on it, as far as kind of making it with the company, it would be 2006. It was mid-year. We were having, so we had done the company where we built it around Jerry Lynn and Spike Dudley, because what's up?
I think I was at that one.
Well, they were with us for multiple shows, but the problem is that so do you remember Battle Royal? I think Spike had won the title, last eliminating Jerry Lynn. That was around that time. But so the plan was that shot off of Mason and I. So Mason couldn't commit to dates. He needed to be at OVW. So we were going to lose Mason. So I think the damn title went up in a battle royal, and then Spike took it, and then Spike and Jerry were going to feud over it. Unfortunately, because they were in demand at the time, and they, again, another two guys that turned the company around and were very vital to the company, they couldn't make the dates. So I think I had gotten I was pulled aside. I was wrestling for the interstate title that day, and I was pulled aside and I was told, hey, we got to change directions here. And I think that would be the biggest turning point ever for me, and realizing my worth to NYWC, where, hey, we're going to trust you. We have nobody else. And it wasn't a case of we have nobody else. We're going to dump the belt on Dickie because, he's here all the time or whatever the case may be. It was, we need to dump the belt on Dickie because we're going to lose the two guys that we were building around. So we need to change directions. We need to go back to you and go do your thing. I want you to it was basically said to me, you need to take this, you need to make this thing, you need to make it work. Whatever the hell you need to do, just go out there and do it. And we, and I was with Crusher, and we went out there and we took it. And that's where I would say, if anything, during the course of the time, that's where everything turned around for me. And I had worth. And I think at that point, it was the beginning of self-worth, because I think that's the hardest thing to get in life is self-worth, where you can look at yourself in the mirror and realize, hey, I'm worth this. When everything starts to come together. So yeah, that would be where I took it. I had the longest reign at the time. It came, unfortunately, being the champion didn't come without, its fair share of weight on the shoulders. We were the only company in New York. Frank Goodman had left. There was nothing else going on. There was another company that was, maybe 30 minutes away from us, and they were in their own bubble at the time. They weren't any kind of threat, nothing. And we were known on the Northeast to be the place. If you wanted to get good work in New York, you came to New York Wrestling Connection, you came to NYWC. So yeah, there was a huge weight where it was like, okay, Dickie's the man. I felt it. I did it. The stories that some of the guys told me 10 years down the road where they felt I held them down, or this the other thing, because they failed at certain things to get through to the guys that ran the place and they wanted their shot. They felt I held them down, and it wasn't even the case. I didn't even know what the hell was going on except for my stuff. But, again, it came with these rocks that you're just holding, because you had all this responsibility. And, it came to the point where I started having arguments with, some of the guys that ran the company. And there was one night I was pulled into a locker room and said, hey, would you mind dropping the belt to Xavier? I said, fuck no. Xavier was over. He's huge. God rest his soul. Rest in peace, man. I love that guy. I had no problems with him. Unfortunately, he passed away early. But it wasn't that I didn't want to do business. It was that I still had business to do with this belt. I felt that I had more to do. There was a time during the run where I had taken 2006. It was 1 month later. I had matches with Tony Nese. Tony Nese and I were killing it. They came to me, Dickie, would you mind dropping the belt to Tony? I says, I love Tony. He's great. He's absolutely phenomenal. He could do things I could never do. But at the same time, even Crusher had told me before he had to walk away from wrestling for a little bit, he said to me, if you feel that you have more to do, then you go do it. And it was it's taught, go back to the feeling like you have arrived. I had enough confidence to say, hey, I got more to do here. I can do more with this belt. So again, I refused. We did good business. We worked together. We came up with things, but eventually everything comes to a head, whether it's a small independent company in Deer Park or it's the WWE. The stress gets to you. There's a lot of stress that goes on. And I don't think a lot of people realize. I think there's a lot of guys that went to WWE that came from just me laughing at me, even saying there's stress coming with what I did. But there was a lot of freaking stress, a lot. And it got to me. I was making wrong choices. I was saying the wrong things to the guys that ran the company. And eventually it came down to, hey, Dickie, if you're so unhappy, you need to drop this belt. You need to get rid of this thing. And I did. And it was probably the worst decision I had made, because I sold myself short. I cut my knees out from under me. And I decided, hey, I don't want to do this. And I had to take a sabbatical from NYWC for a few months. because I wasn't seeing eye to eye. I wasn't a team player, and that's bullshit. In any walk of life, in any job that we do, in anything that we're passionate about, or anything that we're doing that we're getting paid for, or we're doing, or whatever the case may be, you got to play by the rules. There's times that you're going to get away with not, but you got to play by the rules. You got to be a businessman. And at that time, I felt that things were off, and shit hit the wall, and I had to leave. So I walked away for a little bit, cleared my head, came back. But that's where, going back to the original thing, that's where I arrived. And I ended up, I came back, I was down on my luck. I at that point, I hate to say it, I let some people get in my ear. I ended up going to the, what the fuck was that shit called? Order of the Black. I was the fallen superstar. I was talked into coming into the Order of the Black. And I think I kind of accepted it when Crusher kind of said, hey, yeah, no, when he got wind of the idea, come on in, it'll help you. And after a little while of that, it got to the point again where shit was bad. I had, I had guys talking behind my back. I had somebody relaying information that was inaccurate, that was total bullshit. It wasn't me. It was actually that person, and using me as a scapegoat because, again, he fed off the deal where I had already had problems with the company, and I wasn't seeing eye to eye with one of the owners. So he used it, and again, there I go out the door. I had to take another sabbatical because it's going to be, the blame is going to be put on the guy, obviously the worker, not the one of the owners, but at the same time, what sounds good, that's not the truth, is going to be believed. And that's what happened to me. And I had to leave again. And then I finally came back, and that's when I had to team with Nikki, left again. Because once again, the same bullshit hit the fan. I had to leave again. And it was that time, going back, circling back to this, so, we could, put a bow on everything, as Conrad Thompson would say. When I came back in 2018, I think I came back a lot more mature. I came back as a man, not a kid. I came back as somebody who's had way more experience than I probably should have at that point with bullshit. In the time that I was away from NYWC, I had went on the road. I worked with the vets of wrestling. I worked with some of the top guys who had ever drawn money. I was able to get chance meetings with some of these guys and sit down and learn and understand that, hey, man, nobody's perfect, and you are going to make mistakes. But the thing is, if you're learning from it and then you're applying it and moving forward is what the bigger lesson is. So I had done that. I had went over, I went a couple towns over. It was actually close to my house. I went over to Creative Pro. Brian, Kurt Hawkins and Pat Buck had opened up Creative Pro. And, a couple months after that, Nikki had convinced me, why don't you come down? Again, wrestling is a very fickle thing inside the business. You think you have heat with people. I was welcomed. I just needed a place to have a home to train in. I ended up doing some of their beginning shows when they were starting out. And again, I have not but nice things to say about them because, again, they kept me alive. They kept the passion going. I ended up going to Florida during those years. I visited an old NYWC guy named Scyther. Scyther lost, a career match here. He ended up going to China. He did teaching in China. He was teaching English to the people over in China. He ended up wrestling on the first show that ever happened in China. He forged his own path while I was fucking up my path. And we ended up meeting in the middle. He opened up his own wrestling school called The Crypt down in Fort Myers. I have great friends down there. I love them to death. And I was at a really bad place in my life between personal, a lost girlfriend. Wrestling wasn't the same. I was losing, fire over Creative Pro through nobody's fault but my own. I don't blame anybody but my own. And then it's set up for me returning to where I had started and a better person, a clearer mind, much more to do. It was like starting over again. And then bam, here comes COVID. And I feel like it cut me down where I had a great story to tell. And it wasn't a story per se, like a storybook. It wasn't made up. It was the truth. And it was just me bearing my life into my art and going out there and trying to get people to understand that if you love something enough, you're never too old. You're never too beat up. Just as long as you get out of bed in the morning. There's never a time where you should just have thrown it aside because you've made mistakes. Just about every bridge that's ever been burned in anybody's life can be put out, and you can make a comeback no matter how old you are. And I was about to turn 40 years old last September, and that's where my rotator cuff went, completely shot. I ended up a week later. I went to the doctor a day later. They said no bones. I knew it was the rotator cuff. I knew it had to be something with muscles. So while I was waiting for an orthopedist appointment, I went into NYWC, a closed set. I finished the damn Heart and Soul Cup tournament, 3 matches. I wrestled with a completely torn rotator cuff, and I'm proud of it. And I'm not saying it to get myself over, but that's what I did. And that's why, Shane completely feels that I earned that cup. It was part of a reason. It was a very small part of the reason, but the whole story has yet to be told. And I can't wait to be able to tell that story through my body of work. And I hope that's what I get to leave behind to everybody at NYWC, to the future of wrestling that comes in, that no matter what, it's never as bad as you think. It's not worth to get depressed over. It's not worth to take the spiral, the downward spiral. There's always a way to come back. And you just have to believe in yourself first. And you're the person that needs to take the first step. You have to take that first step to do it. And that's what I did. And now that I'm here, and it brings me here today, I get to talk to you guys, no matter who sees it, who doesn't, there will be some people that are going to watch this. And I just hope that they can see through the faults, through the good times and the bad times, that no matter what your passion is, no matter what you're doing in life, it's never too late. And it doesn't take much to pick up a phone and say, hey, man, I fucked up. And, I want to bury it. And here we are.
Well,
I've wasted 2 hours of your life, by the way. We're now at 1 hour and 57 minutes. So I just want to let you know that I have now wasted just about 2 hours of your life.
You have not wasted anything. We're actually paying attention to what you're actually saying, which is we enjoy. Me and Joe enjoy the stories, by the way.
We love stories.
So if you could tell all the stories, we'll be fine. And go.
I just wish that maybe I'd taken the time to stop and listen to you guys a little bit, maybe tell you a good story or maybe something I shouldn't have told you. I mean, there was, we did away shows before, you guys split. We did away shows a lot too. And we had a lot of fun, when the shows were over. And then I remember there was this one time in Monticello. We did the Monticello racetrack. And I know you know where I'm going.
I never mind.
Yeah, I know. We know.
So we worked the Monticello racetrack at least, 2 times. So I'm a little unpredictable. I like to consider myself canceled because in this world, there's cancel, everybody's canceling everything. You'd probably want to cancel me for half the shit I've done in my life. But we were at a hotel that was next to a bar. So, the big thing to go out, there's nothing to do. We're in the middle of nowhere. We're out to drink to the bar. Of course I'm, a couple of drinks in, maybe a little more when I say couple. There were 2 young ladies at the time who wanted to, just be stupid. So, hey, you want to sit there and be, some kind of tease and everything. And I put their money where their mouth was and ended up taking a shot out of someone's ass crack, and I got to see some boobs. So, that's the kind of shit that we after shows, and it's just kind of like, hey, that's just an example. I'm gonna leave that on the table so that you can understand that, yes, we didn't get to some of the stories I shouldn't say. So I left that one on the table for you so I could live up to the promo. But yeah, we did some crazy shit, and it's probably better maybe we leave some of that stuff there. But that gives you the example of, hey, man, we just don't want it. We had a good time. We were young at the time. I mean, you're talking 16 years ago, and we were just all young kids and we were living the dream. And, that's some of us, not all of us, had some wild nights. And that was an example of a very small portion of some of those wild nights.
Well, you could always open the opportunity to come back later in November when we're still available.
Oh, please. The way you're booked in talent, you guys are going to be booked in the next year, man.
You can come on.
We got booked pretty fast, too. We didn't even think we were going to get booked that fast.
Me and Geek are trying to plan a New Year's Eve show, so you can come on New Year's Eve night and give us some stories before the ball drops, Dickie.
Well, I'll tell you this. Maybe there's not a second Dickie in the cards for your program, but I want to definitely tell you that we have plenty of guys here that have come through these doors that would probably benefit from having an interview with you guys and being able to, even if anything, be able to have the opportunity to be on a podcast, be able to just be able to learn how to express what's been going on in their life and their wrestling career. And I think you'd find a lot of interesting stories with a lot of these guys, because I'm telling you, I don't think I've ever been, between Fort Myers, where Siler School is, Creative Pro, but mostly NYWC. I don't think I've ever met anybody that kind of, didn't share some of my thoughts, where this is just an unbelievable time in your life, and you just got to enjoy every minute of it while you can.
It's like you guys tell the best stories. Between you and Damian Dragon you guys have been telling the best stories so far.
I mean, look, if this wasn't just a show that probably should not have run 2 hours and 1 minute because, it's Dickie, but look, maybe we will make a deal. I'll get a hold of you guys soon. We'll talk again. Maybe, hey, we can have Damian and myself on the show at the same time. Find some guys.
Man.
I got no problems with that. Maybe even, convince some of the older guys, but there's so much stuff that's happened, and there's probably a lot more stuff that I don't remember that somebody else can remember and I can add to it. But, 20 years is a long time. There's a lot of guys, even though some of those guys weren't, completely there for 20 years, not just NYWC, but the independent scene, I tell you something, there's just a lot of stuff that, we could talk for hours. We could probably talk for days. Some of these guys,
I tell Joe we could talk till 2 a.m. if everybody's up for it, man. We could talk till 2 a.m. But I think I know you.
Did you ever get an opportunity to wrestle Amazing Red? That's one of the guys asked in the questions. We never got around to it.
Yeah. Amazing Red I trained with. There was times that he was down at NYWC Training Academy way long time ago. Amazing Red. I remember the only other memory I have of him, other than training with him a few times in the SATs that used to come down to NYWC as well. Very quickly, I was in the Elks Lodge. I was making my Elks Lodge debut for Frank Goodman. And he was on the stage that's in the Elks Lodge, the old Elks Lodge where ECW ran. He was standing there with me, and he started talking to me. And I was just kind of like, what the hell are you talking to me for? I was so new, and, I wasn't anybody to him. And he was such a great dude, and we just talked a little business, and that was it, and walked away. But I did have some wrestling past with him as far as training. But other than that, no, I never got to wrestle him in a match.
One of our guests, our customers, my fans were like wrote that, and I'm like, we're not answering that question. I better drop on it before somebody gets mad at us.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. Listen, if anybody, whoever got to wrestle Amazing Red was very lucky, because he's just.
And he's back too. He's back. He's back actually.
Is he?
Yeah, he wrestled, I think, Osprey. What was it, like a year or two ago? And in a return match, and he's been wrestling New Japan. But I don't know since the pandemic, I don't know if he's been wrestling lately though.
Well, you know what? A lot of those questions will be answered soon as the world starts opening up, and it's one of those things that we don't know who's going to come back. Lives are all going to take different turns at this point, but you never can say never. It might take more than, everything opening back up and going back to, the new norm or the norm or whatever the hell it's going to be. But yeah, we all got accustomed to sitting at home for a while. Some guys were paid to sit home, whatever the case. Like me, I'm at UPS. I never stopped until I had to go get surgery. So, everybody did something different during this thing. So who knows who's going to pop back up again. But I'm pretty confident that, most, if not everybody that was a part of independent wrestling and main stages, I'm sure, you'll see them all again.
Without giving anything away, you think there'll be a reset button for NYWC after the pandemic, or
for sure? And good thing you dropped that in before we head out of here. But yes, like I said, we had a choice during this pandemic to either just sit and do nothing or produce a show. I would have liked to have seen a weekly show during the pandemic, but it was just too hard. It was very, it was a lot of responsibility to put on the people that make up the production team to get it out there. And I respect that. And it's, it's just one of those things that we couldn't make happen, but we did put together the show. So, at the end of the series that we're doing now with that, I'm sure that we're going to come back and we're going to have more content on YouTube. But as far as NYWC returning, after as we're starting to return to normal, it's been talked about, it's ready to go. If I had to take a educated guess, I would tell you that NYWC should be returning as early as July.
Mm-hmm.
That would be my guess.
When and if that show comes back, if me and Geek get to attend that show, can we have a Dickie Joe Metal Geek picture? We could take
Absolutely not. No, I take pictures with guys named Metal Geek and Joe Panther Jr. They're just on my no list.
Okay, I'll bring a sticker just in case. I'll be like, here, maybe this will work.
No. Of course, man. You guys, I appreciate you guys being fans of NYWC from back in the day. Appreciate you reaching out and wanting to talk. It's been a blast. Obviously, you guys come down to NYWC, shoot me a message, let me know you guys are coming down. As soon as the show is announced and we're ready to go. And believe me, whatever you want, you guys are going to get it. So, absolutely,
Cool. Thank you.
I don't know. You were mentioning Spike Dudley a little bit earlier. I actually remember the time him and Ultimo Dragon made an appearance in NYWC. I don't know.
Oh, that was at Pat Med. That was at Pat Med. That was at Pat Med. Mondo came back to that time.
Yeah, Mike Mondo. Yeah, that was the show. And
yep.
I remember. I don't want to throw out names, but this was the time when he was not allowed to use the word Spike Dudley. So he was about to write Mike Hyson on my ticket, sign my ticket. He wrote Spike. He's like, fuck it, I'm gonna write Spike Dudley instead.
Who's gonna say that? Who's gonna say anything about that? Fuck it. Just like you said, it didn't fucking matter.
Yeah.
But that show was a big show. That was Mondo returned for the first time since going to WWE. He was given special permission that night. We had Ultimo Dragon, who I think wrestled Tony Nese that night. He wrestled Maverick.
I think it was a tag match.
Was it? Okay, but Nese was definitely in that match from what I can remember. I wrestled twice that night. I had to wrestle Mondo in the opener, and then I had to wrestle the main event with Mason Rage and Spike Dudley and
Ultimo.
Mondo. Mondo was in that match.
It was Mondo? It was because I remember I thought Ultimo was in the main event.
No, I didn't. No, believe me, I was there. I did the not to pat. Hey, I did the main event. He wasn't there. Trust me, Ultimo wanted to wrestle so he could sell his merch in intermission. Get the hell out of there.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Because my memory's not great, so it was a long time ago. So
dude, trust me, I'm with you, bro.
But Joe, you have anything else or?
If you have nothing else, we don't want to hold you up anymore. Dickie, we know it's probably late for you because you have an overnight job. So
yeah,
I gotta get my beauty sleep, guys. What the hell?
The weekend,
for sure. We want to get some views on this, and I think if people see 2 hours and 8 minutes of Dickie talking, I don't think they're going to watch. But no. Honestly, guys, thanks a lot, and for inviting me on here, and we'll chat anytime you want to hit me up for something NYWC related. You're more than welcome to, and I think that we'll try to get some of the other guys on that are ready to break out into the independent world for you. I'll get you in contact with them, and if anybody from the past that you guys want to get a hold of, I'll do my best for you. It's just I think it's pretty cool that you did an NYWC week, but next time we do it, I'm going to get you guys for every day of the week, current, and some of the past ones that really made an impact on the company for you.
Of course, and maybe try to get the boss of the big.
I would love to get. Listen, I would love to get you Curse. I'd love to get you Shane, and I'd love to get you Mikey. But all those guys don't do things like this. So we're just no, they're just buried to themselves in private. But all great guys. If it wasn't for Curse, at the very end of this, I should drop this in. If it wasn't for Curse, there would be no NYWC. There would be nobody else here. Curse kept that going. Knee. Is that what are you trying to tell me something? No. Okay. So it was, production. If there was no Curse, there would be no company. Curse kept the doors open at a point where we should have closed very early on, and there would have been no NYWC ever. But Curse did a lot. In his time here, he's I guess what you'd call retired. He's got a life to live, but if it wasn't for him, there would be nobody here. There would definitely be no Dickie. He was the one that vouched for me in the beginning when Dickie was absolutely nothing. I was still nicknamed Fonzie, and nobody gave me the time of day because they didn't think that I could do it or could make it. And he kept me going. He kept vouching for me, and it's a good thing he did because I had the time of my life, and a lot of that, just about all of it, I owe to him. So, yeah, that's about it. That's the best way to put a cap on it.
All right.
I guess we'll end it here. If you gotta go, Dickie.
Yeah, no, I got to take off. I got to go do things. I got to wrap up the school at Jesus. It's 12:20 in the morning. I got to close up the school and get ready for another weekend of wrestling on Sunday. So yeah, I got some things to do.
All right, we'll keep in touch though. All right.
Absolutely, my friend. Absolutely, for sure.
Have a good one.
Absolutely, you too, guys. Take care.
See you later, guys.
All right.
That was cool. That was a good one.
That was a great interview, by the way.
Yeah. So, thanks again. Thanks for rating our channel.
Thank you so much for rating our channel, by the way. So, thanks for the raid. I don't think we ever got raided before on Dudes at Ringside.
Nope, we didn't.
But that was
anybody else. But yeah, it was fun. And show the guest who the guest is for Monday.
You want to show the guest for Monday? All right,
yeah.
So we'll end it we'll end it here. So let's show the guest for Monday.
What's up, everyone? This is your girl Charisma from Pro Wrestling Revolution in San Jose, California. You are watching and listening to Dudes at Ringside podcast, hosted by Metal Geek and Joe Panther Jr. Enjoy.
Well, Geek, you want to say goodbye?
So I'm going to do our goodbyes. So you guys don't have to, but you could always donate to us at http://streamlabs.com, http://streamlabs.com/dudes at ringside. All right. And I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. Thanks for the great guest, Dickie Rodz, for telling all his great stories. And I'm going to pass it over to Joe.
Yes. I would like to say thank you to thank you. Always remember, support the indies. If they go buy a t-shirt, go buy any indie t-shirt, even go buy a New York Wrestling Connection t-shirt that we had on tonight. Go buy a Dickie Rodz t-shirt and support the indies. Please support the indies. They need you right now. And just remember that thank you to my grandfather. Thank you to Pete Sanchez, and thank you, Frank Martinez, the Blue Demon, for lighting the way for all Latino wrestling. Good night, everybody.